Hello everyone and welcome to another SEJ Marketing Think Tank webinar. That's always such a long title but a fun one to say. That means we're back for some more learning. Today we're going to be talking about local SEO. Specifically we're going to look at a number of case studies about big brands and how they've been able to have success with some of their local SEO efforts. We're going to be joined today by Steve Wiideman. An amazing SEO. He's the search engine strategist at Wiideman Consulting Group and also happens to rank for SEO expert. If you ever happen to search that phrase, you'll see he's right there near the top, normally in the #1 position. I'm going to let Steve introduce himself a little bit. My name's Brent Torres. I'll be the moderator. And Steve, if you can just tell us a little bit about yourself afterward, I'll jump into some housekeeping stuff.
Sounds great. Thank you for the introduction, Brent. My name is Steve Wiideman. I've been in search for about 15 years, working with some pretty exciting brands. I had the opportunity to do my time in corporate, and so I've had some pretty interesting roles with some amazing brands that I'm sure we're going to talk a little bit more about here in a few minutes. In particular, there are a number of multi-location brands that I work with in local search, and we also help some of the agencies out there that need some infrastructure. So we've often been called the agency's agency, the guys under the radar. So that's a little bit my background and some of the companies I've worked for, and let's actually start with a poll, Brent, if that works for you.
Well, let me jump into a little bit of housekeeping, and then we'll jump into that poll. But everybody can kind of pay attention to the poll, and that way you'll know what to answer for the second. So, look, if during the webinar for any reason you have questions, comments, concerns, anything that you want to voice that would be acceptable in a group setting, feel free to ask within the webinar. There's a question box down in the bottom, but also you can use the hashtag SEJ ThinkTank. That's SEJ ThinkTank on Twitter, and we'll see your questions and we'll make sure we get them all in. Also, we'll be having two polls, the one that we're going to get to here in a second and then one later on in the presentation. This is your opportunity to share with us your thoughts and participate in the process, and we strongly urge you to participate. So when you see the polls, please take a moment and fill them out. Look, we're going to do our best throughout this presentation. When there's links, resources, tools, we're going to try our best to drop all those into the chat. We're also going to try to kick them out on Twitter for you with the hashtag SEJ ThinkTank. So, but if we forget something, we miss something, you have a question, by all means, hit us up and we'll make sure we get that resource to you. Do us a big favor. We're constantly trying to do better with these webinars. So when we get to the end of the webinar and the whole thing's over, we're going to have a short 5-minute or less survey and ask a couple questions. If you can stick around and just give us your feedback, it'll help us a lot to make these webinars continuously improve. And lastly, the entire webinar, all the questions, the resources, everything that you want from this will be condensed and put into a recap post that will be published on Search Engine Journal. So you can definitely check that out, share it, get some information that you might have forgot from there as well. So without any further delay, let's jump into some of the local SEO, look at some of the big case studies from big brands, and talk to Steve a little bit. Oh, wait, let me jump in with the poll first, right? So this poll is really going to kind of set us up for this presentation, give us a sense of what people are focusing on. So the poll is going to be, what do you believe to be the most important factor of local SEO? Landing page optimization, links and business citations, business data integrity, and business reviews and ratings. So I'm only going to give people about 30 seconds. I gave you a ton of preparation for this poll coming up, and I left it up on the screen. So let's see if we can get some good voting in there, and then we'll show the results really quickly, and then we'll jump into the presentation and start learning a little bit more. So got a good percentage going. I'll wait just another second or two. I want to see 70%. Come on, you can do it. There we go. All right, so I'm going to close and I'm going to share the results. Very interesting, links, business citations. Not a huge surprise there, especially with the way the SEO has been for the last 15 years, right, Steve?
Right, absolutely. So, yeah, good, great that we did this great poll, because I think it gives everybody sort of an idea or a teaser of where we're going and what we're thinking about as we try to scale local search. Of course, as a local business, it's important. Links and citations are a great way to get referral traffic in business, but it's not really at the core of what helps locations appear at the top or at the highest position possible within local search results. So let's get into it in a minute and figure out what exactly is the #1 most important factor. First, want to talk a little bit about what the secret recipe has been for us working with some of these national brands. Some of the brands that you saw earlier include, Public Storage and Skechers and Meineke Car Care. We've helped with California Closets and some other amazing brands that have, well over several hundred locations, and trying to take what might be easy for a mom and pop with one location and scale that for 2,000 to 3,000 locations can be a real challenge. So what I've found helps as we work through strategy for these local brands is using the right tools, and we'll talk about what those are here in a few seconds. A foundational 4-layer action plan, and this action plan really breaks down some of the things that you'll need to be thinking about, and maybe if you're thinking about something that isn't in it, it might not be an appropriate thing to do for local SEO. And then a genius creative strategy, what's going to set you apart once your competitors have sort of latched on to what you're up to with the technology and content side of things. Cadence and discipline are going to be extremely important as we think about what we're doing every day, every week, every month to build a pattern of behavior that search engines and users can recognize. Going right into it, there are 3 phases of any search strategy that's been important for the brands that we support, and it's going to be important for you as you think about, again, scaling local search. Strategy is absolutely the most important phase of what we do in search, and I think a lot of businesses get out of that mindset of, hey, we do local every day, let's just jump in and start working. But I think if you spend the time and you do the research and you do the analysis, you use some of these great tools that are available to you to really explore where the competition, are getting search traffic from, and where they're getting links from and citations, where where all the best opportunities are going to be based on existing data as well as insights that you learn about the competition. I've listed a few tools here. One of my favorites is Deep Crawl, because it'll take your analytics and XML and some other stuff and actually build out a really comprehensive report for you. On the execution side, really important to think about the cohesiveness of your webmaster, development teams, your writers, and your outreach and PR. And with the big brands, it's really important to really be the person that connects all of these groups so that everyone feels involved in the process. And then as you get results and you're seeing improvements in rank and you're seeing improvements in search traffic, that's when you go back to those groups and you show them what their participation resulted in. And there's some great tools for larger brands where you've got more than one location. Rio SEO, Velocity, I'll mention a few other tools later on. These are tools that help sort of automate that process, at least at its core, so that you can focus on creativity and content marketing and not worry as much about some of the data and some of the things that we'll be working through. And on the reporting side, of course, really paying attention to the daily and weekly and monthly reports to find out, hey, am I slipping in a particular area? Hey, this competitor this week seems to be getting more traffic from these search terms or bidding on these keywords more often than they did, a month or 2 ago. Paying attention to those and having the right reports for the right teams, really instrumental. Earlier I mentioned this foundational 4-layer action plan. You've probably seen this in multiple forums and multiple blogs and articles around local search. It doesn't change for larger brands. For the larger brands we support, we break our project into these 4 areas. The first being the data sources and the accuracy of our business data. So search engines can look at that and say, yeah, this really is a location. It's not just a fly-by-night or some affiliate trying to hack search results. Your content, we think about multi-location. Yeah, your services pages are going to be important, but what's going to rank when somebody puts in a query that's modified by a city or an area? Google's going to and Bing are going to show a location result. They're not going to show an organic result. They're going to show a result that they think is going to serve the person who's looking for content in that area. Or, and in some cases, they won't even put in the area. They'll just put in the keyword, and the hope is that that local result will show our content. So we're going to talk about city and property level templates and some things that we do, and some examples that you can look at and some case studies that you can build off of here in a few minutes. So profiles and citations are still important, but not the way you think. In a lot of cases, people get hung up on this idea of blasting their data all over the internet, and that's really spammy. And a lot of people don't go to some of those business directories that are in the list that you're given by some of these providers. It's just not something that's going to benefit you long term. What is are going to be those that are in your area or that are in your industry. You're going to get great referral traffic, you're going to build relationships with local businesses, and you're really going to build up that visibility. And the last part is online reputation. And when we think about ratings and reviews and how they appear in search results, I think we know that nobody really clicks on a one-star listing. And if that happens enough over time, there's a signal there that search engines can pick up that, hey, maybe this listing isn't as relevant to my users as another listing that has better ratings and reviews. So we're going to talk about those 4 things just really briefly. At the core, and we did this poll earlier, if you answer data sources and the integrity of your business data, you are correct. Those data sources are what are used by business directories as they purchase data to list on their website. It's also there's also data that shows that when you're in all 4 of these major databases, your listing and your ranking in search results gets somewhat expedited. You actually start to see better placement, faster placement, and if you're optimizing well, higher placement faster if you're able to get into these 4 databases. And we're talking about the local maps here, right? The 3-pack that you see over here on the left, or the snack pack as they've been calling it. This deployed on desktop just a few weeks back. Before this, we had a 7-pack. We had A through F, I believe, and it would be in the middle of the search results. So there'd be some organic listings, and then you would see, this map pack, and then you'd see some more organic listings. Well, since they did the shift over, this pack is at the top of the search results some 93% of the time, based on some of the data I've seen online. So this is really important to pay attention to, knowing that data is a big influencer of what we need to really get that placement in the maps result that's now at the top of search, where it wasn't a few weeks back. So it's just some industry kind of news there, but also talking about the importance of data. Other data sources that we don't always think about when we're doing local search that our larger brands are already in sort of by default are sites like Hoover's and Dun & Bradstreet and other databases that are relevant for your business or for business in general. All of those can be accessed by search engines to some degree, and all of them can have their data purchased by other websites that could publish information. We always want our information to be correct, so making sure that our data is correct is going to be a huge part of that, and has been for some of the brands that we support. As Brent mentioned earlier, we want to make sure that you have access to where you can go to submit your information to those. I did create a page called Local SEO that has that. If you are a franchise and you're doing multiple locations, there are providers out there that can automate and make that process faster and make it a lot more affordable. One of our favorites is Rio SEO. We have a really great experience with their customer service. In some cases, we're really busy. We reach out to them and, hey, can you just do it? MozLocal is also a great tool. If you've got, say, 10 to 20 locations you want to manage, it's a very affordable way to do that without having to pay the expensive $50 to $200 cost per database. These providers get listing fees at a premium because they have so many of them. So I've listed a few down here, but definitely tweet me and use the hashtag SEJ ThinkTank, and we'll make sure that we give you some more examples. So that was data sources. Now, local content, this is where the user is going to make a decision, and that decision is going to long-term help determine where you rank within search results. So if they get to your page, because you've done this data insertion, you've got your business information in there, and the user gets to that page from the map pack or from an organic search result, if they decide, you know what, this page isn't very helpful, it looks spammy or it's very thin in content, it just isn't useful to me, there's a likelihood that they're going to go back to the search results and choose someone else. And the pattern of that happening, based on tests and experiments and case studies that we've done, shows that that pattern over time actually hurts our search ranking. So what we want to do is make sure that the content they see, whether they clicked on a map pack listing and went to a specific store landing page or property landing page, or if they clicked on an organic result and went to our city listing page or another piece of content that shows up, we want to make sure that our page, our version of that search result is the absolute best of anything else that you can see in Google. So we're going to talk a little bit about some things that we do at the local content level to really hyper-localize some of this content for better ranking. So we think about our store page content. I use the word store, but it could be center, it could be whatever your individual franchisee or location name is. In this case, I'm going to use the phrase store. There are things that we can do here that help users and also can be seen and read and crawled and indexed by search engines. So the official name being number one, I've kind of listed this out here with little bullets to help you. The official name is very important. It's really tempting as a local business to change your business name from Joe's Plumbing to Plumber in Irvine. It's very tempting to do that because you're thinking in keywords and you want to be number one for that particular service and area. So don't do that. It's not a good idea, especially if you're a larger brand and you're submitting information to major databases and directories. When that happens, it creates disparity. It creates ambiguity in your business data that's found online, because a lot of the data sources, the telephone companies and so forth, have your actual business name, and if it doesn't match up, then something doesn't sync up with search engines, and they just scrutinize that listing. So let's use our real business name, our official name, our verbatim address and phone number. So as web crawlers are crawling through the web and they're counting the number of occurrences of your name, address, and phone number, right? They're trying to do an exact match the best they can so that they can say, oh, wait, I already have this data in my database. This corresponds to this business. They are getting better at abbreviations in street names and other things, but it's still important to always use the exact verbatim address and phone number wherever you can, particularly if you're a large brand and you're having to syndicate over 2,000 locations. Store hours and current status is also important. It helps users. If a user can't see right away if you're open or not, or they can't figure out if you're going to be open at a certain time on a certain day, they're going to bounce back and find someone who is. And you've all done it. I've done it through Yelp, and it's something that's important to users. So whether Google is actually using store hours on a page as a search signal, I don't know. But I know that when we do post it, particularly when we run tests across multiple locations, users stay on the page longer, and we have a lower exit rate. So it's definitely something that's helped. Personalization. You can't get any better than personalizing the result. In this example, we said, hey, make this my Meineke. By doing that, you're saying, hey, dear user, we care about you, and we don't want you to get lost on our website. Once you make this my Meineke and you surf around and you view information on our site, we're going to make it very easy for you to go back to your location and not have to navigate around, or worse, leave our website and choose another search result. Google Maps, call to actions, selling propositions, trust signals, these are all things that either have a direct impact to what search engines are reading or what the user experience is like on the website. And this matters because we want to get that top placement in our snack pack. Continue scrolling down that same page. There are some other things that we can look at, and I probably could have continued the numbering, but I wanted to sort of isolate this a little bit for you so that you can see the keyword impact here. So when you perform a search, whether it's for oil change or exhaust repair or brake repair, if you've got a page of content that satisfies that user who's in that area and Google's showing a local search result, you have a better chance, from what we see in the experiments that we've run, you have a better chance of having your local page appear, where you've given emphasis to keywords that particular location services, and given emphasis to the area that corresponds to that page. So in this example, you see number one is oil change, Anaheim, California. And so we pointed out some clues here that help search engines identify content that has a regional intent, right? And helps users know that, hey, I'm on this page, I can see what this particular location can help with without having to go back to the main navigation and choose the main services pages. Store page content, continuing down the same piece, there's other things that we can do to give search engines more data and give users more information. So this was an interesting one. Normally we don't put job information on a local landing page, but because this was important to each individual franchise, we went ahead and did it and used it as an opportunity to include additional keywords. In this case, you've got automotive technician, we could add mechanic. There's so many other words that we could add that are relevant, that search engines will crawl and index, and users will search for with a geo-modified query. So, example, mechanic in Anaheim. In the video example, by having a video on a web page, not only can you keep your user more engaged in your content, you add more authenticity to who you are as a business. Users appreciate that. Who are the people that are going to be working on my car, for example? What's that location look like? More information you can provide them, and the more media that you can provide in your content, I think the more helpful it is to users. Even better is that there is structured data and other things that we can do within that video to give search engines a better clue of what's on this page. So with video, we can talk about the title, the description, and tags, right? Those are all important. We can also put that video into an XML file. Now we've got something a little bit more creative and a little bit more interesting and useful and keyword enhanced for search engines. Semantic keywords, I mentioned that a moment ago, and barnacle SEO. So this is a concept that isn't talked about as much as it was a few years back, but by linking to the individual social profiles associated with that location, such as the Facebook page for that location, the Google Plus or Yelp or Foursquare, whatever specific social place is or social local places that you're going to be engaging with your customers, having a link to that not only helps them communicate with that location in real time, but it also gives some link power to that individual social profile. So when somebody does do a search for that particular location and they see the location in the search results, they don't see a lot of negative reviews and content that you don't control in Google. Instead, they're going to see those social profiles because you've given them some visibility. You've pushed some links to them to have them show up for your branded search. So it's a great way to sort of handle ORM or online reputation while also giving users a way to communicate with you. Going into our city level pages, a minute ago we talked about the individual store page, store landing page. Now if we go up a level in our site organization, we go to the city page that lists all the locations. I'm going to use Public Storage as this example, only because they're doing some really unique things with content that I just have to share. So when we think about this page, we're not talking about the map pack result up here where our actual store page is. We're going to be talking about the actual city landing page. So let's go back here. So we look at the city landing page. We're talking about what shows up in the organic results. So if you're doing the math here, you can see that by thinking about city and store page, we've already got 2 placements on the first page of Google for a given set of keywords. If you're doing any paid search, if you're doing AdWords, for example, then you've got an opportunity to have trifecta. You've got your paid ad at the top with your local site extension there. You've got your 3-pack, your snack pack, and you've got an organic listing. So you've got so much real estate on the first page of Google that a user is just going to know that you are who they need to call. Like, wow, this brand is all over the place. So paying attention to that can really give you, a lot more brand awareness, a lot more brand equity, and hopefully a lot more click-through in search results. So let's dig into the actual store center page a little bit here. Look at the city level content and what we can do. And I use the hashtag helpful because I think that's paramount to any search strategy. As you are working on SEO or even PPC, are you providing the most helpful content available online? And if you're not, then that should be priority. And if you are, then every month, what could you be doing better? How can you provide more helpful information? So in this example, we're experimenting with an idea of providing more helpful content. Are we semantically relevant? And that's something that we're playing with, is how can we get other keywords that are important to us on this page that also help our visitors? And so in this example, there's a tab, and I know there's a little bit of controversy right now around discounting of content that's in tabs, and there are cases where we're trying to break it out and test. But so far, for our city level content, we haven't really seen any sort of thin content or tab penalty by doing this. It's helpful, it's useful, it's semantically relevant. So the example that you see, relocating over here on the right, we've also got housing, city resources. We're linking out to authoritative sources for those visitors to get more information, because somebody who's storing something is likely moving or doing something related to relocating or something that is logistics in nature. So we want to make sure that we're including search terms that are semantically relevant and providing helpful content. Absolutely, we could put more imagery and video and content on this page to make it stand out more than just paragraphs. But again, this is just case study, right? We're testing what happens if we give more helpful content. And then using data we already have. So pulling information that we know about people who are purchasing our products and services and publishing those helps users know what other users are doing, but it also tells the industry something. And if the industry can use that information and reference the site, you've got some amazing link opportunities that can come out of that. So profiles and citations. We talked about data. We talked about our landing page content. You'll definitely get this presentation after the webinar so that you can go back through and look at some of those bullets. when we think about profiles and citations, we want to make sure we handle the search engines first, of course. You want to get into Google and Yahoo Local and Bing Places. That's priority. But also thinking about navigation. You can submit your business to Apple Maps very easily. It only takes a few seconds, and if you tweet me, I can give you the URL, or you can just Google it. It's so easy to find. Social local. So this is where your audience is going, where they're downloading apps like Yelp, Foursquare, and Facebook, and they're leaving sentiment, and they're talking about you and saying things that you need to pay attention to. So making sure that you've claimed those so that you can pay attention and listen to what people are saying and respond and interact can obviously protect your online reputation, but also help you get more visibility. That user-generated content is going to be packed full of keywords that talk about you. And then business directories. And you can see my meh on here, because those general business directories that a lot of these business data syndication sources will send your information to really aren't going to give you much traffic. And honestly, when search engines are looking at that content over time, they're demoting it. It's going away. Yeah, it's got history. They've been around 10 years. We're talking about like the merchant circles and the small directories like Manta that nobody really goes to. And if you're not sure how much traffic you're getting from them, you can easily go into your analytics and take a look. You'll see that you get very little traffic from those sites, and I don't think they provide much value or relevancy. Instead, I suggest focusing on regional citations and industry citations. Anywhere you can get visibility that's relevant for you, where you can introduce yourself to the industry and to your local audience is not just going to help your long-term search, but help you, again, raise brand awareness. Continuing down this list here, profiles and citations is a great way to look at an individual location. You can scale this as well. If you look at an individual location to see where the competition are earning citations, that's a great way at an individual level to do that. We also use another tool at scale for some of these larger brands called GeoRanker. GeoRanker allows us to API in and take, for example, 2,000 locations and see who the competitors are across those 2,000 locations, run an aggregate, and see where the most common business listings and business citations exist by running an aggregate and creating a pivot table based on the data that we get across all locations. So WhiteSpark, great way to dive in and look at a few locations. GeoRanker, another great tool you can use to look at scale, thousands of citation opportunities in aggregate and pick out those that have some common themes. And then we use BuzzStream to track all this progress so that we don't have overlap. We create a couple projects, such as our regional industry directories, and we use that as a CRM, at least for most of the accounts that we work with, so that we can keep a nice organized project set up within a system that we can track. And here's an example with auto repair, where we've got a list of industry auto repair directories, Autoblog, Cars.com, MotorTrend, etc. And the last piece in our 4-layer action plan is online reputation. And one way that we've worked with some of our brands that don't necessarily allow us to do a lot of point-of-sale work on the reputation side, we still try to push for them to give some sort of takeaway. If you know your visitor had a great experience, you can tell they're happy, give them a card to compel them to share. Be careful not to ask for a review on Yelp, because Yelp's really more for the consumer than the business in most cases, because they don't want you asking for reviews. But reviews are the way that you can help build your credibility. So definitely give them a share card if they had a good experience. If they had a poor experience and you could tell, they've got that Kermit face when they leave, and you can just tell they're a little bit upset or frustrated, then give them a care card and have them go back and fill out a survey that goes directly to upper management. Say, look, I'm not sure if I did a really good job or not, but I want to make sure that you share your feedback with my boss, because I want to do better. Give them a card, they fill out the survey. At the end, you give them some sort of a coupon or discount to go for another visit, or to try another location in the area if they're just not happy enough to come back to that location. So that's one simple way. I'm sure you can come up with some other creative ideas. That's one simple way that you can manage online reputation. So that was the 4 layers. It was data, it was content, it was citations, and online reputation. If you're thinking about those things and improving how you're managing those 4 things every month, particularly if you're a big brand, you're in a good place. Let's jump into poll 2, Brent, and talk about some creative ideas here.
Awesome. So, as mentioned, poll number 2 time. Would you trade a Saturday to get neighborhood businesses to link to you? I expect to see a really high ratio in one of these answers, but let's give everybody a chance to vote. Again, would you trade a Saturday to get neighborhood businesses to link to you? Yes, without a doubt. Maybe, if it wasn't a lot of work. Or no, I don't want any more web traffic. And again, I'm going to give everybody a little bit of time to kind of get some votes in, and then we'll show the results.
I remember where I got the last line for. No, I don't want more web traffic. I think Neil Patel had that on his site when you go to it.
Yeah, when you get the pop-up and you say no, it's like, no, I don't want any more web traffic, right? All right, so we got a good amount of votes. Let's go ahead and share the results. Yeah, pretty much everybody's willing to, and then of course there's the caveat of unless it takes a lot of work, right?
Right. So if everybody's done the foundational 4-layer action plan, your competitors have done it, you've done it, the only thing that's really going to help you stand out is your genius creative strategy. And the idea that you know of many that you can come up with, that we came up with, you could scale this with the right marketing budget. You could say, hey, every location, I need you once a year or once every 6 months to do something that benefits your community, and we're going to provide a budget for it. But we also want you to go out to other vendors in your area, other stores in your area, and ask them to contribute. The likelihood of some of these businesses putting dollars down to help with a community effort, such as putting in a new playground at a park, or helping with a homeless shelter, or even just doing a Feed the Homeless Day. A lot of these local businesses just don't have a lot of money. So when they come back and they say, you know what, I can't contribute dollars, what else can I do to help? You say, well, maybe you could promote the event on your website. Do you have a blog? Do you have a site you can, you can point everybody to say, hey, we're supporting this event. Here's where you can go. They don't have to contribute dollars. All they have to do is link to the event page on your website. Now, if your local businesses in your area are linking to, and Google's crawling through those links, there's a huge signal there that you are absolutely relevant in that area. So from a geo-targeting perspective, and getting that local map pack ranking, this could be a huge win. And again, this is just one of many strategies that you could use when you think about creative ways to really stand out against the competition. So other genius things that you can do, I keep using the word genius, but you can call it innovative, you can call it whatever you want, is having a great content marketing plan. On the right-hand side, I've got a screenshot of a tool where we used a question-only filter to get some great content ideas. And this one, I just used the word dog to see what kind of questions people were asking about. And you can see what kind of dog should I get with 7,425 searches per month. If you take all of that information and bundle them into nice themes based on the user intent, there's a lot of search volume that adds up. Then you take that and you pop it into your calendar for every Tuesday. Or if you're a smaller brand and not a big brand and you can only do once a month, that's fine. Do it for the first Tuesday of every month. We're going to come up with this amazing piece of content, better than any other answer that's out there, with diagrams and video, all of which can include structured data and metadata and XML files that are associated with those images and those videos. A lot of great things that we can do with our content marketing to really kill it and drive some links to our website and hopefully even get some brand awareness out there. The other part of that's when we think about content marketing, it's every Tuesday, every other Tuesday, or once a month, is getting influencers and people who are experts in your industry to contribute to that content, because they're going to be likely the first ones to share it, and then you're in front of their audience, and as you continue to grow that, you grow your relationships with people that are important in your industry, and a year later you've got 52 of these guys, if you've been doing it every week, who are going to share that one amazing thing that you're going to put out once a year. So just be thinking about that, and that's a schedule that we've used with a lot of larger brands we work with who have a problem because of resource issues or otherwise of creating a calendar. So we just put it together for them. We do the research, we put some keywords down, we say, hey, every Tuesday we're going to launch a piece, and here's how we're going to do it. Recurring social and video campaign. Obviously, a lot of the links that you'll see from those sites have a no-follow attribute and don't really pass page rank through them, but there's still an amazing way to build your audience. And as you're building your audience and getting some of these semi-viral videos out about useful, helpful content that helps the industry but also helps the individual or the consumer, by doing that, you're building that subscriber base so that when you do produce that weekly content, you've got somewhere to publish it where it actually gets seen. And then college and government strategies. There's a lot of naysayers out there around the value of college and government strategies, only because there's so much spam that happens when somebody says, hey, we really need to get more visibility there. But when you think about a college or government strategy that benefits the people who are reading the website, for the storage, for example, we could easily get on a page on a local city resources page or relocating page. So there's a page, say, for Anaheim, where it's relocating to Anaheim on anaheimcity.gov or whatever it happens to be. By getting visibility there, it helps the person who's deciding to move to Anaheim by finding you as one of the resources. And of course, search engines trust those links because it's very rarely do those sites link out to sources that are untrustworthy. So it's a great way to build trust, earn some great links, but you have to think creatively about ways that you can benefit the audience. With colleges, it might be doing something with the college that that helps students, or contributing to a class with a guest speaker or something like that. And Eric Engie actually had a post on rich answers and thinking about your content marketing strategy and ways that you can solve problems, particularly with lists. If you look at what shows up in some of the quick answer box here, it's a great article to read, and I definitely encourage you to check it out. Last part is Cadence and Discipline. As we get into the reporting and monitoring of what we're doing in search, it's going to be important to run tests and experiments. And here's where all the juicy case studies come in. So hopefully, for those who dropped off, you'll be able to watch this later. For those who just joined, you're going to be joining right at the point where we're getting into some of the experiments that we ran and the results from them. Monitoring is pivotal. You absolutely have to pay attention to what's going on, because it could mean thousands of dollars in loss of revenue or foot traffic, particularly when you're talking about thousands of locations for a larger brand. So the tools that you can use to get some of this data, of course, is your Search Console, which is free, and your Google Analytics, where you can pull some of your AdWords data, if it's connected, and see the actual queries that people are using related to a specific page. So when we look at that specific page and we look at the actual search terms, the search queries that were used by users, we can take that information and we can rebuild our content around what we think users are interacting with better. If we have conversion data, we can take that conversion data from AdWords, for example, and enhance our web copy on organic so that we can start getting some traffic around keywords that we know convert, but also because it helps build our quality score with our AdWords. So another neat trick that you can try that will enhance what you're doing in search on the paid side is taking your search query data at the individual URL level and putting it into the ad group associated with that URL in AdWords. You'll notice some really high quality scores happen almost right off the bat. I've seen cases where I see 9s and 10s when I pull those queries from my Search Console into my AdWords ad group associated with that URL. Just a fun little trick. I also like to use Conductor for managing larger brands. It's an enterprise solution that does a great job with helping me categorize some of the different keyword segments I'm going after, and it also helps me from a geo-targeting perspective if I want to create specific areas to pay attention to. So in this example, category we use was women's work shoes, and you can see how over time, by using some of that query data and paying attention to what's going on as we're monitoring results, we're able to enhance the copy and use more semantics, provide more helpful content, and get, as you see here in the dark green, more first through third placement keywords, which was a huge win, particularly for some of these more competitive keywords. In this example, here's one of the tests that we did, specifically monitoring, or we actually modified the URL of a landing page, and we monitored to see if that would help the page move up. We used better keywords, we shortened it, we thought, hey, this might be a better user experience in search results, and we didn't see a huge lift for it. But however, we did run a survey, and we asked users, 1,000 users, which of these 3 titles and descriptions, or titles in this case, would be one that you would be more compelled to click on, and why? And we asked why because we want to make sure that they're genuinely answering the question. And most of the reason why was authentic and not as spammy. We got that a lot. When you shove keywords into a title, it's not a good user experience. But we want to make sure that we're thinking about keywords as we're writing these things. So in this test group, we took 30 locations, in large brand, we took 30 locations as a test group, We took 30 as a control group, and then we ran a test, and for 4 months between the two different tests that we ran, just to make sure there was enough time, and we saw a difference. When we were able to change that title based on what the user feedback was, on what they would click on, we moved up from 2 and 3 to 1 and 2, which was a huge win, obviously, because that ran at scale. This is just one screenshot example, but all 30 locations, or most of them, moved up respectively. Another test we ran was around HTTPS, and you might find this one interesting because, again, a lot of naysayers are saying, don't go full HTTPS, who cares what Google says, it's not important. Well, we saw some ranking improvements. Again, it was a big test. We ran multiple locations, and we tried to see if there were any ranking improvements by going HTTPS. And because we had web forms on the page, and we're asking users for information, that secure connection was important to them. And they're more likely to fill out a form if they see that HTTPS, and less likely to go back to Google and choose another search result, which, as we mentioned, creates a pattern of negative SEO over time. So we want to make sure the users are staying there, and HTTPS is becoming a standard. Do it for your users. The fact that Google said that they're giving higher placement, that's just bonus. Second test was we added a Google 360 virtual tour, which allowed the user to interact with our content a little bit more. And again, authenticity. See the place that I'm going to be going to. Adding that 360 virtual tour made a big difference to how users interacted with that content, and of course, over time, helped us move up in search results. So that was a neat test that we ran as well. And we went ahead and put a page together for search engine journal readers. If you'd like to get some of the outreach guides that we use and some best practices that we put together, we've got some pretty cool guides, local SEO guide, etc., that you can download. We're also doing something kind of neat. If you're interested, you can put your URL in, and our specialists here will do a 10-point simple audit and come up with some suggestions on ways that we think you can improve your search. So, and again, this is something that consultants here are doing, not salespeople. So don't worry about getting any sort of sales call. This is us trying to provide some value to search engine journal readers, and we're happy to do that as a thank you for letting us do this webinar.
That's very, very nice of you as well, Steve. I know you've offered me kind of similar things in the past, so I think that's really a great ad for everybody to kind of get some of those free tips with no hooks. A lot of really great information. I want to thank you, personally. This is the second time I've actually gone through the presentation. I still had 5 or 6 notes that I wrote down. So definitely a lot of really good information. Do want to plug while we're at it, that we are going to have our next webinar, which is going to be on November 17th, same time, same Bat Cave, Bat channel. I'm screwing up even the funny bits I try to throw in there, but it's going to be about driving profitable content marketing techniques, right? Really about looking into what techniques are going to be working for 2016, and I can kind of, I think we can both kind of guess that a lot of it's going to be around quality, right? I mean, I think that's the resounding trend for 2015, and 2016 is probably going to follow that. But without getting into a diatribe, thanks a lot. We have a ton of questions, good questions, challenging questions that we're going to get into. Again, throughout this, you're welcome to continue to drop questions, especially challenging ones, and you're welcome to use the hashtag SEJ ThinkTank to get us your questions. But I'm going to jump in, and I'm just going to read them as they come, so some might be simple for you, but I'm hoping they'll be pretty hard. What are some key differentiating factors between the local snack pack store homepage and the city-level organic pages?
So that's a great question, and I think Snack Pack, as we talked about earlier, it's really centralized around where you are. So if you're on your mobile device, Google seems to be always wanting to show you the nearest result, the one that's closest to you. And if your data is correct, then it's kind of a no-brainer. But if you're on desktop, then you might get a little bit of a shuffle, and then it's really going to be based on I think the validity and visibility of your business data. More so than anything else for the snack pack. For the organic, we're not as focused on, we're not actually giving Google My Business and Yahoo Local and Bing Places, we're not giving them the URL to our city page. We're giving them the URL to our store landing page. So that's why the map pack will obviously link to that particular content, where the organic listing isn't something that we submit to Google My Business. The organic listing, the page that shows up in organic results, is something that we've created to sort of address some of the geo-modified search terms that somebody might use, where where we already have visibility in the map pack, and Google doesn't want us, for whatever reason, to have the same URL twice in their search results. We've satisfied that by creating, differentiating the two. Hope that answers the question.
Awesome, good answer.
And somebody mentioned a 404 error too. I hope it's not. It should be just SEJ. So if you go to SEOroadmap.org/SEJ, it should be working. I tested it before the meeting, but if not, I'll jump right on it after the webinar.
Pop it open real quick myself. SEOroadmap.com/.org. So there's the problem. It's a .org. Let me grab that really quickly and repost it in there.
It's a free site, so everything that we put on there is around the breakdown of strategy for building a roadmap. So there's no selling content or anything.
So another good question. This comes up, I'm sure, a lot. I have hundreds of locations. Do I need to create a specific page for each location?
I would, absolutely, because then that individual location can engage with users that are in their area that have questions. They can build relationships with some of the people who are at those locations. They can talk about their experience at that location, and that location can share those experiences on that landing page. So there's a million reasons why you'd want to create a page for that individual location outside of just the Google My Business listing. But thinking about metadata, thinking about structured content, structured data like schema.org/local business, and talking about that individual location, where it is, who they are, and hours, and so forth. I think there's a lot of unique content that can be created that helps users find what they're looking for at their local store before they even come in. One other good example and reason why we did this, if you look at the Skechers local landing pages, and depending on what month you go to it, if you go to a store page, you'll see a coupon and a coupon code. What's great about being able to create a landing page for each individual location isn't just the fact that you can really engage with the local audience, but you can also track it better. So on the coupon there's a code, and that code allows us to, when somebody checks out with that coupon, to see if we're getting more foot traffic that's resulting in revenue from those coupon codes. So it's a great way to track better with what you're doing in local search, but it also gives you a great way to present coupons and offers and deals to the guys who do hit those pages that you can track.
Well, let's push that one second further. I have hundreds of pages. I can't do quality content on 100 pages overnight. There's a lot of different ways you can approach prioritizing pages. What do you think is the right way right now to prioritize your pages to start working on?
Sure. Well, I mentioned a few tools that you can use. Right? I wouldn't expect anybody to go out and manually create hundreds or thousands of local pages. So you do it dynamically. You either do it through your own system, your own CMS, and you try to make each page as unique as you can by using attributes that you have around that local business. That store may only offer certain services or products, so listing those dynamically from your database is a great way to make that information as unique and geo-targeted as you can, and doing it dynamically through a template system. And then the tools I'd mentioned, like talking to Rio SEO and some of the other providers in the slide, you can talk to them and they'll build out your landing pages for you on a subdomain, at least to start, or you can reverse proxy it and put it in a folder for those people who believe in the folder versus subdomain for SEO. There's a lot of third-party tools that you can use to make it as automated and seamless as possible. If you can't create those local pages for whatever reason, CMS or whatever, then you're going to want to focus on those external signals. I think the regional and industry citations are going to be very important for you.
What do you think is the best practice for canonical coding on the tabs when you get into these pages?
Well, it's one page, so that page would have the same canonical URL, right? Because the tab isn't a page. The tab is a section of the page, right? So I would say if you're using tabs, your canonical would stay the same. If you wanted to break out that content, instead of having tabs, have areas on the page and give each area a header. so it's nice and clean and organized. If you're worried about the tab being discounted, that would be something to consider. For mobile, obviously, when you collapse those areas that used to be tabs that you've broken out into blocks, might turn into accordions, so that you've got an accordion drop down for mobile so that you can maintain that user experience.
Awesome. Next question. What's your opinion on leaving stickers and general collateral for local profiles such as locations, Yelp pages, or Foursquare, Google+, etc. in a physical office or location? I'm guessing the general question is, what do you feel about people going and dropping off some of those things in different locations?
I don't know. I've seen
maybe even their own location, like having a flyer that's like, check in, review us.
The point of sale stuff, right? Actually on was it Instagram recently? I posted a picture of Big Air, who has this thing when you walk in. It's a little kiosk area, and it says, download this app and share your experience, your picture on Instagram, Facebook, etc. Right, and Yelp, I think. And so they did a good job of sort of placing something that catches the eye of somebody who might be willing, to download an app that shares content on multiple locations. I thought it was brilliant because it allows people to see other people playing and having a good time at this trampoline park, but it also helps because when they do submit, the fast follow that those sites will come back to is, do you want to leave a review? Like Yelp, hey, you checked in and you took a picture, do you want to leave a review? So they kind of do a little bit of that grunt work for you.
I was in Chicago at a Japanese restaurant, and one of the things they had that was right next door was check in for a free edamame, like an appetizer. Right. And I thought that was very creative, because who doesn't want a free appetizer when you're sitting down to eat while you're waiting, right? So I thought that was very creative.
At Chili's, we get the free chips and salsa for checking in. We love that.
So what do you think about that in general? Like, I mean, you mentioned earlier to be careful about asking people for reviews, but it kind of leaves a little bit of gray area, especially to the average person who's running a local business. Like, what is that gray area? What is that line that I can't cross? Is it an intent thing?
I see the big brands building loyalty programs from it. I think it builds a loyalty program. It gets them into an email list. It gets them into the app. It gets them off search, so they're not searching for other ideas. They're using the app, and they're using their loyalty program and the emails they're receiving. That all starts at check-in. So I think if it's a segue for a loyalty program, you're going to see the most value from it.
Nice. How you mentioned earlier about like reaching out to some other companies in the area as a strategy to maybe get them to help you. Look, you can't give me money, but can you share me on your Facebook page, or can you give me a link back in your blog, or can you do something to kind of benefit us? How do you approach those organizations? A lot of people are very wary, and this kind of also leads into how do you reach out to experts when you have content that's coming out? How do you approach somebody effectively in this space?
Right. Well, I'm gonna plug the outreach guide again. If you go to the SEOroadmap.org/SEJ, you can actually get. We have a four approach outreach guide that you can use to sort of understand what other people are doing. We have four. The first one is reference. When you've got something that those other brands would reference. In the case of the creative idea we came up with, the reference was a charitable thing. There was no, there was nothing there that would make them not want to share it. Right? Hey, do you want to help us build a playground for the kids at this park? Well, sure, great. All you have to do is share this page. This talks about the program, et cetera, et cetera. Google will navigate through the links and do its thing. The second approach is by cross promotion. Building relationships and sharing content that you find useful for them and for your users, and vice versa. The other one is going to be contribution. How can we help you this year? Is there anything at all that you're struggling with that my team might be able to help you with? Do you need an SEO audit? Do you need graphics help? Do you need some free training? Is there anything that we can do to help you, because we want to build a relationship with you, we want to work with you, and be a partner with you? And the last part is sponsorship, and that's stepping into the gray area of buying links, which is definitely not something you want to do, but it's a great way to give yourself some great visibility in industry-related websites. So thinking about how you can sponsor, if you're in auto, for example, and you want to sponsor an auto shop, and you're going to do some things to help them, have somebody come in and do some free training with them, and in exchange, they, on that auto page, they link back to you, to say here's who's coming in, here's where they're from. So I think there's a lot of authenticity that can be there. The approach itself usually starts in social, and then it evolves into email. I've noticed that if you reach out to somebody on social and said, "Love to talk to you. I love what you're doing, and I'd love 5 minutes of your time," and then you don't get a response, and then you email them, when they get that email, they first think to themselves, "Wait a minute, this is the guy that was trying to reach me on social. If I don't reply to his email, what if he calls me out on social in front of my audience?" So they're more likely to respond to the email, and then we have an initial email template. "Hey, just reaching out, want to say hello, I think you're amazing." Never, ever ask for a link in an email. And the second follow-up is, well, first follow-up is, "Hey, just following up with you to make sure you got my first email." And then you maybe do 3 total over the course of a month, and then you obviously move it to the side and say, this person just does not want to connect with me. If you can't pick up the phone and call them or walk next door and speak with them, and you just want to do social and email, and you get beyond that third outreach, you've got to move on or pick up the phone and talk to them.
Awesome, awesome. One last quick one. Let's see if we can fit one more in. I think this is a really good question. I get this all the time. I don't have multiple locations, but I serve multiple locations.
Right.
You get that. I'm right on the county line, but my zip code says I'm in this city, and I service this whole group over here, but I can't. What do I have to do? What's some tactics I can use to market to these other counties?
Sure, that's an easy one. Your Google My Business is going to be for your one location where you actually have an address. So your strategy is likely going to revolve around organic, since you don't actually want an address and a location showing up in that snack pack. Instead, you want to show up in the organic search results and get as much visibility as you can. First way, of course, is thinking about content that has a geo-targeted intent. We have a franchise in solar. And one of the things that they want to do as part of their growing their organic search campaign is getting more visibility in Orange County and Los Angeles. Even though they're based in Riverside, they serve those areas. So they're in the process of creating content, sort of like that city-level content we're talking about, that provides useful, informational, helpful things for people who are in that area, and then gives them a little bit more visibility for the sales side of it. So there's a helpful brand awareness piece to it that says, "Hey, you're in this area and you're looking for solar. Here are some things you need to think about. Here are some of the solar companies, and by the way, we're one of them," right? And creating content at that level, thinking about the city level page without the location data is a great way to get more organic visibility. I think that's part one. Part two is going to be doing some outreach to businesses that are in those areas. And contributing. If you're in solar, maybe they're going to donate some solar to some of the colleges and government offices that are in that area, or doing something where there's a reciprocal value by giving something in exchange, getting more visibility. If those city pages and local businesses are all sharing content, even if it doesn't directly affect your local SEO, which it should, because your name and that city are going to appear, as citations and co-occurrence. But even if it didn't, you're going to get a lot of referral traffic from it and build a reputation.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you again for the time you spent. I want to, go through a little couple resource recaps. I want to make sure everybody knows about SEOroadmap.org/SEJ, which has, some of the guides and some information there. And remember that Steve offered to let everybody kind of put in their site, and they'll have their analysts look through and their specialists look through and come up with some suggestions for everybody. So I think everybody should take advantage of that. I do want to beg of everybody, please, stick around, take this survey. We really want to try to get a lot of good feedback. And everybody, make sure you continue to ask questions. We have a couple unanswered questions that I want to make sure we get to Steve, and we're going to continue to watch. Hopefully, Steve, you can stick around on Twitter a little bit, maybe answer a couple more questions there, and then we'll put all that in the recap, and we'll make sure all that information is there for everybody. So thanks again, Steve.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, guys.